Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming. Just before we get started, just a little bit of a housekeeping. We did offer this virtual and in person. I'm really excited that you all came in person. Better that way. So we've got Source representative there online. Candace can hear me. She's in between visits, so Candace, if you need to hop on or off, that's fine. But we always appreciate you being there. So in person, today's going to be interactive. I know you guys are so excited about that, aren't you? Yeah, so excited, but it will give us a lot of hands-on experience. What our goal is to be able to work out or even clarify some of our QAPI concerns. We know how to do QAPI. We thought we knew how to do QAPI, and then pandemic came and we don't know anything anymore except COVID, right? So really that's why we're going to go back over this and go through it. So we're all going to be square one today, okay? And then we're just going to march forward with many more topics in the future, okay? Of which we'll kind of go over there. So once again, thank you all for joining us. My name is Teresa Hostetler, and I'm the Lead Quality Improvement Advisor for the long-term care in the state of Indiana. And I'm very happy to have you all here. We're going to go around the room here in a minute and do some very quick introductions. Again, we're all friends here. It looks like a lot of us know each other, so it's going to be a great meeting. We'll be able to converse that way, okay? And nobody joined online, so it's okay. Candace is out there. And she can hear us, right? If anybody does join, right? Thank you, ma'am.
I can hear you.
So during this, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, again, informal, say it. Stop us, raise your hand, do whatever you need to do. Restrooms are right around the corner here. I just feel like this is a big conference meeting. More fun. And we're not going to have interruptions coming in and out. No distractions. Okay. So introductions, Teresa Hostetler again, and then we're going to start over here at the table and make ourselves around here.
Nidra Bridgewater, I'm a quality improvement advisor. I just started in February and excited, and I'm glad you guys are all here. Sarah Walt, I'm a quality improvement advisor, and I just started the 1st of March. People here.
Carolyn Farron, I'm a QI advisor too. I don't know a lot of people here except for my team. But I started March 1st, and so I'm a short-termer so far, long-termer in long-term care. So lifer, I guess I would say.
Hi, I'm Kelly Gordon. I am a QI advisor, and this is day 2 on the job. So I'm learning right along with y'all.
Angelita Hendricks, the quality. And I'm Kim Iman. Hello, how are you all? I'm the nursing home education coordinator.
Outside that door is Don Gettinger, and he is a quality improvement advisor, but he works with the communities. So you've probably seen him like Dean Hospital, things like that. So before I get you guys to introduce yourselves, you heard a lot of us say when you were trying to. So here's the thing. We recognize your long-term care needs and what you were saying and all the feedback that you were giving us and over the last 2 to 3 years especially. And what we have taken that is we want help. We want inside help. We went it yesterday. And we want ongoing support. So this company heard you. And we hired folks so we could get to you more efficiently and quick to do so and do all of those tasks. Okay. Brief overview. Again, if all of you guys, you've seen me in the buildings. So, we come in peace. We're non-regulatory. We are your friend. Do just that to come and help you. Okay. So no repercussions of contacting us whatsoever. We are truly there for you, so you can be successful in your roles. And when you're successful in your roles, then our residents and our elderly population gets better care. And that's really our main goal, right? Okay. So introductions.
Hey, I'm Jordan. I'm the Director of Quality at Providence Healthcare.
I'm Audrey Rollman. I'm the IP in Education at Springfield.
And
I'm Jessica Bland. I'm the Director of Nursing at Spring Hill.
I'm Leanne, I'm the administrator.
Julie Frederick, I'm the DON.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Thank you guys for coming. Okay. So, today's topic. We're gonna talk about. Not working. I'm not working. Notice I'm not technically. Ask me to put in my V, I'll be there for you. Yeah, so we are going to be here to talk about QAPI. And it's going to be QAPI at a glance. So QAPI at a glance is actually a tool that was put together many years ago when we first started being educated or given our directions for QAPI. We put this in 12 steps and it was actually rolled out as a pilot program. And the pilot program was for facilities to sign up to use this tool to develop your QAPI program. And if you followed each step, that you would have a successful program at the end of it. So like I said, that was many years ago. And the feedback we're hearing from now is facilities that actually use this and continue to use this resource still have solid plans today. So today we're going to discuss the importance of QAPI. We're going to discuss potential tags around your QAPI program or lack thereof. It's a true thing. I didn't realize that you could get a tag really until I was involved in helping to help correct the policy on that. I just thought we should all have a QAPI print. So we learn every day and do. So we're going to make sure that we're going to go over potential tags. And I always feel like if you know a potential tag, you'll be better off to avoid those tags. Okay. We're going to do a basic setup of the QAPI programs with your facility. Well, there'll be a brief exercise about it too. So QAPI, what exactly is QAPI? It's a merger of two complementary approaches to quality management. So QA, or the quality assurance, and PI is performance improvement. QA, we want to provide the best service and create standards of care. And PI, we want to develop a process to measure outcomes and identify opportunities. We want to be able to produce change and improvement. The QAPI is important because it aids in problem solving. It sets up goals and recognizes outcomes. It's we can also look at it, it is a fulfillment for our caregivers to recognize their accomplishments and be aware of the changes that they made. Change is not always bad. So, and we do forget as caregivers, we do need to stop and recognize our achievements and not just everything that we did not accomplish that day. We have achievements every day too. We want to make sure that we give better care, better quality, better life for our residents, our facility, and of course, for our healthcare personnel will fall under that guideline as well. We all want to make sure that we did a good job that day. We want to be able to recognize it and fill it, and we'll keep on marching on forward even better because we recognize that. Next. And with that, Marilyn Farron is going to talk with you about federal tax.
Check the chat, please.
So I am going to talk about the regulations.
I'm sorry, Marilyn, before we get started, do we have anything in chat?
No.
Okay, we're good. Okay, just making sure technically, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. So anyway, we want to talk about the regulations. I know you want to talk about the regulations, and it's hard to make this very exciting. So I say that up front. But the history of regulations is something I just want to touch on real briefly, because the regulations have been around for a long time. actually since since the thirties when Social Security was passed, because they had an old age assistance component to that program. And so that at that time, a lot of homes would open up their house to people that needed help. I don't know how much that money was. I don't suspect it was much. If you think about it, that was 1935 and the Great Depression was in 1929. So I don't imagine it was a bunch of money, maybe more than they had before that. But anyway, it opened up, and then from that eventually became nursing homes as we know them today. They developed over time, and it took a while because initially there were no regulations and no enforcement. So people kind of probably, I think, did it with their best intentions, took care of people with their best intentions, but they were not regulated. So over the course of time, Congress said, wait a minute, we're paying out this money now. So how do we know that things are good? How do we know those folks are getting taken care of? And secondly, who's looking at them? So that went on for several years, actually. And it went on, and I'm skipping over a lot of years here, but then in 1986, President Reagan signed in OBRA. And that was, I don't know if you were around in nursing homes at that time, but that was a dramatic change in our life because we had regulations and we had enforcement. We had to do what they said we had to do. And in fact, they had different people coming in and checking to see that we were doing what we're supposed to do. So that's probably the first time most of us really got that involved with regulations. In 2000, starting in 2016, 16, 17, and 19 was the final rule. And that then also enhanced the regulations that we already have. And it also brought some new ones on board. So that's a brief overview of what happened with regulations. And then I'm going to talk about the ones that actually affect QAPI. You know, when you're in the middle of a survey and the surveyor comes in to talk to the administrator, and the first question they ask them is, do you have a QAPI program here? And they always say, yes, of course we do. Depending on the surveyor, depends on how much they look into that program. They're supposed to make sure that we have it and it's up and running and it's useful. And so the first the first tag is under, which is F865, is under governance and leadership responsibilities. So it says in there, in a nutshell, you have to have this program. You have to have adequate resources to run the program. You have to allow your staff to come to the meeting. And it says that we have to identify and prioritize issues. And there's almost always something to look at. How you get from point A to point B is sort of up to the facility, but there, potentially we have to have a way that we get that information. Sometimes it's meeting with the staff. I think that's a really good way because the staff know what's going on for sure. CNAs, some of the facilities I'm aware of have a CNA come to the meetings. I think that's a great idea. They do know their residents and what they need. I also want to remind you that if you do have a concern that's been taken through QAPI and you're in the survey or later on after a survey, you have taken it through QAPI, the surveyor is not supposed to cite you for it. So, and I have done that with surveyors over the years. I've been involved in long-term care. I told you earlier. Just had one with a facility that had numerous falls, and they really did have falls, but they had a QAPI plan. And I happened to be there at the exit for that survey. And they said during that time, the lead surveyor said, well, we noticed we have a concern about falls. So that's likely that we'll take it to the QA down in Indianapolis, but you'll probably get cited. And nobody said anything. So I said, it's kind of disappointing though, because this facility has taken this to QAPI. They have a plan. And so I don't think they should be cited for it. Now, of course, they didn't say, oh, we're not going to do it after all, but they didn't get cited for it. That was just omitted from their list of concerns. So it does work. Now, clearly, the facility is supposed to follow that plan that they developed. So if they came back, if the survey team came back in 3 months later, we still had a lot of falls with injuries, they might question us about that. But on the surface, that's what's supposed to happen. So that's 865. Under 866 is where we are to implement the policies and procedures. And so those also show how we get how focus areas get identified. How do you know what's happening? And we should know what's happening. And so I think that QAPI is a good thing. It also, that particular tag also addresses any gaps in the system. So if something's happened and you don't know about it, why don't you know about it? There are ways to find out. We have to tell them how we're going to monitor, what we're going to implement, and how we're going to monitor it. How are we going to show what we said would happen does happen? Do we have to have new policies or education? If you think about it, it's sort of like a plan of correction. Because when we write a plan of correction, we say that we've had this issue, we fix this because we're going to do more education. We're going to sort of have a reset with the staff, talk about what happened and why, and how are we going to monitor it then? Are we going to do audits? Are we going to do increased rounds of whatever it is? All those things. So it is like a plan of correction, really. And then we also have to, under this citation, it talks about monitoring adverse events. And we, of course, would be doing that. Under 867, that's the program, the analysis and activities. This tag was a two-parter because part of it was introduced in phase 1, and that's November 16. And that's where we're tasked with conducting performance improvement activities. That's where the QA and the PI part comes in. So, and that's where we also show the corrective action. That's a lot of these tags sort of mesh in together. When you read federal regulations, this part, excuse me, this part goes from A to H, I think. And out of that, you can pick out these F tags. They don't go, you'd think they'd go right in a line. They don't. They're kind of scattered. And if you ever are sleepless one night, pick this up and I can guarantee you put you to sleep in a hurry. But I'm kind of weird. I like to read regulations. So I'm not sure what that means, but it's probably something bad. But anyway, they are kind of scattered through the regulations. And that's true of all of them, really. So that was, as I said, under phase 1. And they're looking at how that plan will make the lives better for our residents. And they look closely at quality of life, quality of care, and resident interaction. That's not the right word, but slipped my mind. I took too much late night reading regulations. But anyway, those are thought to be the big 3. So if you get cited for something under 867, under quality of care, quality of life, resident assessment, missing word, those will be a substandard quality citation. So watch that closely, and I know you do. Under the rest of 867 came in under phase 3. And that was November of 19. Again, talks about the performance improvement projects. Ones that you do, you can have multiple projects going on at the same time. And usually there's an opportunity in facilities to have multiple PIs going on. Remember, you have to have at least one during the year. And that's more related to your facility assessment. If you can't find anything else, you could probably find something there. But the surveyor would expect to see at least one. And then you set it up just like I mentioned before, in the plan of correction way, to look at what's wrong, what are you going to do about it, how you're going to fix it, and what audits and so forth you're going to do. And then you come together with the QA committee, QAPI committee. Usually the DON takes in the audits of whatever source you've decided you're going to monitor them with, and she or he goes through with the QAPI, with the QA committee. They decide, if you're okay or you're not okay. What I always remind people of here is, if you've had an audit, during your performance improvement plan, you've got an audit that you're doing. Maybe you're checking weights. Got a problem, so you're checking weights. And we've said that we're going to do weights on each unit, check them 3 times a week for a month. And then, assuming they're okay, we'll then go to maybe twice a week, and then down to once monthly. We're just checking to be sure that we've got weights being taken and documented. Now, you don't want to do that for the rest of your lives, so you got to have an endpoint here. And usually the wording is until substantial compliance is reached, which gets you out of that on and on and on auditing. Nobody really wants to do that. Maybe unless it's me, who's a little strange anyway. Any questions? Thank you. Well, my good friend Sarah is going to talk about QAPI. I'll put you up here, my girl.
I'll say that you just talked.
You have to point it at that, and then we'll change it.
Okay.
I'll come
Right up the screen.
right at that one.
Okay, so, 2 weeks in and I get to present. So we'll do that. My background is an RN. I've worked different roles. And then I was encouraged by maybe some peoples in this room to become an administrator. Do that, it'll be fun, they said. You'll love it. And so January 2020, I stepped into my first facility. So if you know what happened January 2020, nothing. But March, everything happened. So there's that. If you talk about crying under your desk, I've been there. I have sat under my desk and cried. I could be your girl. You could just call me because I've literally said, yeah. Sat under my desk and cried. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the elements of QAPI and the leadership and responsibilities and accountability. So we have to look at QAPI as kind of like care plans. So because care plans are regulatory as well, right? So we can do 2 things with things that are regulatory. We can either begrudgingly work on them because we have to, or we can just figure out a way to work them into our everyday systems. And so we've started doing that with care planning. It's a living, breathing thing. So is QAPI. It's living and it's breathing. I'm gonna go to, okay, our action steps of QAPI. Okay, so step 1, leadership's responsibility and accountability. So you are a leader in your building. You may have some charge nurses that come to mind. Think of who your leadership in your buildings are. You want to assign those people. You may think of a CNA, or there may be someone in your housekeeping or someone in your kitchen that they're the person that is always like, man, that's just not right. I think we could do that better. Okay, because those are going to be the people that you're going to want to harness and that you want to choose. So you want to choose the person or persons who will be the QAPI lead in conjunction with top management. Okay, QAPI needs champions. They need the person that's always like, why do we do that? Why is this like this? And, they drive you crazy sometimes. So give them a job, give them a focus and a drive, okay? You're gonna have a steering committee. Your steering committee is gonna have an overall responsibility to develop and modify the plan, review the information, and set the priorities for the PIPs. Okay, this is gonna be your IDT team. You are going to charter teams to work on particular problems or opportunities identified. And then the steering committee is also going to do the reviews and determine the next steps. It is also important to have a medical director who is actively engaged on QAPI. And I may have just said that, and you may have been like, okay, so this is something very important to remember. Everybody's busy. So a key element that may help you, especially with a medical director that may be like not coming to one more meeting, is team it up, team your meeting with other meetings that you're already having, that they may have to attend. Make it something that is their priority. So if there's something particular that they're really passionate about inside your facility, make that a QAPI and a process, because then they're going to stay for anything else that you may be working on. Okay, so little trickery or cookies. Yeah. Cookies, or please, you know how to work around your medical directors. But like I said, if you can, make it when they're already coming for behavior meeting, or they're already coming for team your meetings together. So there might be some changes. But that might help you get cooperation. Provide resources for QAPI, including equipment and training. So if you're going to have someone, Jennifer May, if you're going to have someone that is in housekeeping, or you're going to have that CNA, and you're like, our QAPI meetings are going to be at 11:30 in the daytime, and you've tasked one of your CNAs with showing up, it's going to be kind of hard for them, because what are you doing at 11:30 in a long-term care facility? And then you want to say, Peggy just doesn't show up to these meetings. I just thought she was going to be a vital part of our QAPI team. Well, Peggy can't come to the meeting if she's on the floor. So, think about things like that. Maybe we have it at 2:30 or 3 towards the end of the shift, so that we can get those participation. And you do want to reach down. You do want to talk to your CNAs, your housekeeping, your dietary, depending on where your areas are, because they're around the building in the nooks and crannies that as top leadership, you may not be in as often. And they see a lot of things. It's amazing to see how much that they actually see or know is going on. So if you're questioning a problem, go to the corner, go to the nook and cranny, and get their input. Okay, but you've got to be, that's another part of this. You've got to establish a climate of communication and respect. If they're afraid to tell you something, or afraid of what's going to happen if they say, well, we really don't wash that, whatever it may be, we really don't use those. Then if you come down on them, well, I'm writing you all up because that's what you did. Do you think they're going to share with you the real problems? And we want to get there. Like we don't want anybody to get hurt. So when we see a deficiency in a practice, we automatically think someone has to be in trouble for this. Maybe not. That's where it goes back to, like Marilyn was saying, it's a QAPI. So we're working on fixing this problem. And so if a state surveyor comes up, or, you get a complaint of the washing of said item or whatever, you can be like, well, that was brought to our attention, and here's what we've done so far. This is what we did, because someone felt like they could tell you that. So be that person that they can tell you just about anything. That way, you do get to know things that may be really a problem, or that they can communicate with you. So then when you're sitting in this QAPI meeting, they're not afraid to say, well, it really doesn't work like that. Right? Because ultimately that's what QAPI is supposed to do, fix what really doesn't work like that. Who wants to have a policy in place or procedure where 3/4 of the steps you don't use? Right? Because the whole point of them is that they're guiding what to do. Okay, so we're going to also develop a deliberate approach to teamwork. Teamwork is a core component of QAPI. Okay, again, communication. You have to be able to work as a team. Characteristics of an effective team include the following: having a clear purpose, having defined roles for each team member to play, having commitment to active engagement from each member. So they have to be able to identify those areas that need improvement. And you don't want to task someone on the team, okay, with something that they wouldn't do, because it's not within their scope, or we would not expect the CNA to give the same analysis as the director of nursing. They're going to be looking at it from two different points. Both points are very important and both points are meaningful, but we don't want to put our team, someone on the team, set them up to fail. Okay. QAPI relies on teamwork in several ways. PIP teams are formed for longer term work on an issue. When chartering a PIP, carefully consideration must be given to the purpose of the PIP, the type of members needed to achieve that purpose. So we'll go back to my example of whatever washing said item. So this could be an issue with, okay, it's coming out of a room, where are the CNAs placing it? Okay, are they placing it in a laundry hamper? Are they placing it in a biohazard room? Are they placing it in a hopper? Where is it going? And then is laundry getting it? So you're going to want to put laundry in that piece as well. So follow whatever issue is throughout your building, okay, or your process throughout the building. Maybe it's orders. Is it getting put underneath a calendar somewhere? Somebody's going to document that later tomorrow when I come in, you know, or is it, you know, a process of where are the faxes going? You know, are we not doing faxes anymore? Are they all coming through email? Does everybody have email? There are just little processes like that. So you want to see like, well, who all has access to that, and break it down. And put on those teams who needs to be in it. Does medical records need to be involved? Does, you know, like I said, housekeeping. Is this an issue with dining service? Okay, so maybe I need somebody in the kitchen on the team because what time is the meal supposed to come out? What are you doing? How is this working? You know, and get involved and see, you know, those processes of who needs to be on the PIP and select those. And you may have multiple PIPs going on, right? So we've got multiple QAPI projects. Let me see if I can, off the bat, let me see if I can name any. Falls, UTIs, behaviors of the staff, that can be a QAPI. Okay. Wounds, okay. So we may not need weights. You mentioned weights. So weights may involve somebody in the kitchen, but falls may not. You know, so you're going to have different PIP teams with different members. Someone you may not be thinking, what about family members? Do you have family members? Now, your biggest hesitation with putting a family member on a PIP team is we all have those family members, right? We all have those that you're not sure whether they're out to get you or really trying to help you, okay? But we're going to open a line of communication with them, right? Because we're going to tell them, you know, you kept bringing this up to me about mom falling. And you brought it up a couple times, so I want you to know that we're working on that. And, you know, maybe you have some insights, okay? Get their insights. You know, They talked in the fall about the change of the survey process and talking to families more, and getting families' input about the resident prior to them entering long-term care. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. So we've got to get our families back involved. I feel we got sheltered for a couple months with COVID, where we were just making the calls. Everybody's good. Yep. Have a great day. Bye. Oh, yep. She's been to activities. We've delivered this to her. Thanks. Bye. Right? And they weren't in the building. Okay. And so we started to like push them out, right? Am I the only person that felt that way, or felt like we're doing everything for the resident now? What do you know? You know what I mean? It's kind of a feeling that we got, but it is their loved one. It is their family member. And so we've got to start bringing that piece back in. Okay. And so we've got the family member that really wants to do something to help. You know, she really wants to help with the weights. You know, I think you'd be great if you had a snack time. You know, I've been going up and down the halls, mom's friends, and this is what they say they like. Okay, so she's going to help you with that. What do you think is going to happen when the State Board of Health comes in and they're curious about the weights in your building? And they've got a family member that says, no, listen, they have been working on this. In fact, they asked me what, you know, and I have helped them, and they've got this thing they call a PIP team, and I meet with the DON over this PIP team. What do you think the State Board of Health is going to say then? You're doing this, aren't you? Like, you're involving people in these processes. Okay, so step 3, we're going to take our QAPI pulse with the self-assessment. So this self-assessment is in your binder, and it looks like a lot of pages. Okay, but what I'm going to tell you is, where are you right now with your QAPI projects? Is your QAPI this binder right here that sits on your shelf, that you pull out for your meeting, that you put the stuff in, and then maybe you talk about it and everybody signs the paper that says they were there? Okay, like I said, I just got out of a building. Let's make it not, okay? And how can we make it not that? How can we let's take our pulse and see where we are, okay? And then what I'm going to tell you to do is, let's pick one area, okay? One area that the team, the IDT team, whoever's on your QAPI team, sits down and says, we've got to work on that. We really got to work on that. Instead of like every morning meeting, or if you do a stand down meeting saying, oh, we should work on that. No, we're going to work on it, okay? Just one. And you're going to go through all the steps and all the processes, and Nidra's going to give you some more information. And I want you to work that one problem and see if it makes a difference, okay? Because sometimes I think, who has like 30 problems right now that you could probably do a QAPI? And so you're sitting here.
QAPI myself.
Yeah, you're sitting here and you're like, I got to do all these steps for all these problems. I have to start with every single problem. That's going to take me a month to even get them wrote down, let alone do the diagrams and walk through the problems and get people involved. Well, let's not do that, okay? Let's go back. So you've got all your QAPI projects that you know you're working on, but we're going to select one, and we're really going to go through these steps, okay? We're really going to take it through every single one of these, so that we get a full picture of it. And what's going to happen when you get that one done? Oh my gosh, I did it. Like, wow, we did the whole process. We've got that process going. You know what? Now let's work on this one, because I think this one's a problem, but we've got this ball going, right? Instead of trying to juggle 30 at once, let's get one juggling first, and then we'll throw in another one, okay? That's going to be my challenge for you, is to get your way through that, okay? So also, I want you to identify your organization's guiding principles. So your organization has a mission statement, right? Most do. You may know it. You may have it in the folder that they give you the day you started, right? Somewhere. It may be posted somewhere in your building. And it may be something that gets talked about a lot. You might hear your mission statement a lot with your regional directors, or maybe it's something that your board is very passionate about making sure you know. But let's go back to that mission statement for a minute, because it's important to lay a foundation that will help you think about the principles that are guiding you and helping that help you set your priorities. So establishing a purpose and guiding principles will unify the facility by tying the work that's being done to the fundamental purpose or philosophy. I mean, I don't think you're here or in long-term care for any other reason other than you want to help take care of people. And you want to help take care of a vulnerable population, and you want to take care of a population that needs people that care about them, right? Nobody is in this to get rich or famous. I've not seen any professional athletes come out of long-term care. I mean, possibly, but you're in this because, ultimately there's a reason that you love this population of people. And there's a reason that you became a nurse or a health facility administrator or a social worker or whatever your roles have been throughout this, because very, very likely all of you have worn more than one hat at some point. You didn't start in the role you're in. You may have been something else first and then stepped your way through because you wanted to improve the nursing home, and you want to improve yourself. So you've stepped your way through to work your way through. Okay. Questions? Do we have any in chat? No? No questions? Okay. All right. So let's develop our QAPI plan. So your plan will assist you in achieving what you being the team, have identified as the purpose, guiding principles, and scope for QAPI. Okay, so we're breaking this apart. Why do we do what we do? How are we going to fix something that's broken? And what have we determined to be the biggest broken thing? Because we've all got, again, we're going to use the number 30 of these broken things. Okay. Our plan is going to guide the nursing home's quality effort and serve as the main document to support the implementation of QAPI. So back to our rules and regulations again. They're going to ask if you've got one, depending on the surveyors and what conference they've been to or meeting they've had. We've all gone to conferences, right? And then we've come back to the facility and we're fixing that, whatever it is, because we just listened to it for 3.5 hours. We're fixing it all. Okay, same thing. They're going to conferences too. They're learning. So how in depth with your QAPI plan are they going to get? You have significant weight losses and you've got people that are really losing and it's widespread. They might want to really get in there. So again, okay, but here's what we've been doing. Here's what we've noticed. Here's what we've picked up. Like you didn't identify this problem for us. We identified it months ago. Okay. And we've got all the resources thrown at this that we can. We've got the dietary involved. We've got the dietitian doing extra. We've got, you know what? We pulled activities in because when activities is crocheting, they're also feeding them Boost, whatever. You know what I mean? That's how we're making sure they get them because they always go to this. Again, some of it's going to get individualized with your care plan, but it's an overall PIP of what you're doing. Okay, what is your staff doing? You've got to tailor it to fit you. So Jordan, what you do may not be what Leanne does. You guys have a different pulse because if you've been in multiple facilities over your time, you see that they all have the team works differently. Okay, changes in your team. Do you think your QAPI plan or your PIP may have to change? It might. Some may have to change just a little bit. You might get a new person with new ideas and be like, that's a good idea. I didn't think about that. Okay. So make it fit for you. If I was to give you the structure, exactly how you're supposed to do it, and tell you, you have to do it that way, are you gonna like it? Maybe not, right? Are you gonna see it as beneficial? Let's just do something like Fig Newtons. Everybody has to eat Fig Newtons for these weight losses. What about the person that doesn't like it? Right? And if I, but my people love oatmeal cream pies. It's a universal thing, oatmeal cream pies. I don't know, maybe it is. Maybe oatmeal cream pies are not. But you've got to do that, okay? You're going to conduct a QAPI awareness campaign. Okay, this I think is where you can get really fun with QAPI, because I have to find something fun and very like my ADHD squirrel over here for a second. So we're gonna go over there. we're gonna do that. Okay, so we're gonna let everybody know about our QAPI plan. So the challenge was you're gonna go pick one thing, right? And then we're gonna let everybody know what that thing is. Now, how are we gonna do that? Well, we're going to do it in multiple ways, right? How do you communicate things to your families and to your residents? We all have, I don't know, Miss Smith. All we got to do is tell her, and everybody in the building knows, right? Y'all got one of those? There's someone that's going to communicate it. No, we're going to do a little bit better. So let's talk about a QAPI corner, right? Maybe we have a bulletin board and we have out what our QAPI projects are. Somewhere where our residents are, somewhere where our families walk by. Now, I wouldn't put, there might be, you want to keep it kind of general, you know what I mean, about what you're working on, not the nitty gritty of what all you're doing necessarily, but what projects you're working on. I find things like that when it's a visual and it's something you walk by too, then you're like, oh yeah, working on that. We're working on that, right? Where are we with that? Where are we with this information that we need to get? Okay. We're going to maybe have a newsletter or send out updates. A lot of us used an automated update system, where it's super simple. It'll make all the calls for you because, we have to call everybody about COVID forever. And so we all got some sort of system. So maybe we're going to put in that system that we have some QAPI projects, or we have, what we're working on in our facility, because we want to be the highest quality facility around. So we're gonna make sure our quality is above anywhere else, right? Because that's what we want to do. And then we're going to train. We're going to use our home zone experiences with certain caregivers or residents as part of the learning material. Okay, so we're gonna start breaking down exactly what's going on. The thing that wasn't getting washed, or the snacks that aren't getting passed. We're gonna be sure consultants, contractors, and collaborating agencies are also aware of our QAPI approach. So do you have another entity working with maybe the group of residents that we're working on, or it's important for behavioral health to know that we're going to start working on our psychotropics. They're going to need to know that, and probably the whys. Not everybody knows about federal regulations. Not everybody that steps into long-term care knows that you can't do certain things. Maybe you've had a family member that says, you're going to admit my husband and I don't want him to fall. So will you just use this lap buddy? No, we won't, right? Because we're not. But you may get that, or just, I want you to put an alarm on him. I use one at home. No, see, here's the problem, right? We've all been through these. You have these examples and these things are coming to your head. So we're going to make sure that we kind of explain to our families. If you work in admissions or you're helping with an admission, we're going to make sure that our families know that, we have ways to improve. Like, we work on quality monthly, every day. We work on quality every day. We have a meeting monthly. If there's something that you see that we may need to work on. Now, sometimes you're going to get the barrage of, I don't know, grandma got the wrong shirt on, somebody else's shirt, and those weren't her socks and they were in her drawer. And she doesn't like Big Newtons. I really wish you would just give her this. Okay. Those are quick sort outs, right? Those are the quick sort out fixes. We're going to put some on preferences. But we want to make sure that we communicate with them, that there is a process that we do use. And we would love for you to talk to us. Why do we want them to talk to us? Why do you want them to call you when they're not happy? Yeah. Or the ombudsman. They're going to call the ombudsman, and the ombudsman's going to visit, and then it's going to be a thing, right? It's a thing. So we want to make sure that we're doing those kind of things involving them. All right.
So like if it's an individual preference, so like they don't like oatmeal pies, or there was just an isolated incident that somebody else's laundry come up, we could do that as a individual case. But if it happened multiple different places, or like we were just throwing out oatmeal pies to everybody and not caring throughout the whole building what they had, that would be a host system error. So therefore, we would take that to QAPI.
Right.
For an individual, I would probably just do a grievance, so you have documentation.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But it becomes widespread, then that's a building QAPI.
that's a QAPI. So just remember, it's kind of just set that we know the residents' individual preferences and that we're following the individual's preferences. But if it's like, why in the world did this whole hall not get weighed? Why in the world is this whole hall losing weight? Okay. Why? And because sometimes you get big buildings. Okay. I've been big building, little building. Okay. Little building, you feel like you can just wrap your whole hand around. Sometimes big building, I can only look at this much I can only look at this much right now.
So, I'm sorry, just to clarify one more time. So like, it's not so much about the oatmeal pie, it's about that we're not offering choices. So really, that's the QAPI, that's the problem being taken at QAPI, not the oatmeal pie. It's the fact that we weren't offering choices for this snack or for weight gain or whatever we put it at.
And it may be that upon admission, we're not getting preferences.
Okay, so that might be 2 QAPIs?
It might be. Yeah.
Okay.
And we're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss how to get there. Okay. Okay, so step 7, we are going to develop a strategy for collecting and using QAP data. Okay. How do we know there's a problem? And what are we going to use to show that there is? So your team will need to decide what data to monitor routinely. Areas to consider may include clinical areas. So these would be like your pressure ulcers, your falls, your infection rates. Medications, those that require close monitoring, antipsychotics, narcotics. Okay, so we're gonna look at our meds. Complaints from residents and families. Okay, care plans, resident council. Okay, when we're doing our care plan meetings, do we have people complaining about the same thing? Okay, we'll go green pies. It's like, is that all we got in here? What do we got? What are we doing? Okay, so you want to listen to those. Maybe you need to have a sheet where you're just, when you're doing those care plan meetings, and you're just kind of taking notes of, what complaints are we getting? Because that might be where you're collecting some data, because you do your care plans routinely, correct? And so where we were having a problem, we've been working on it for 3 months, we go back, this isn't a problem anymore. Actually, they didn't bring up anything.
Once you have submitted the test, you are with them. However, this is the test that a lot of people.
Identify benchmarks for performance is an essential component of using data effectively with QAPI. A benchmark is simply a standard of comparison. So your CASPER report would be a good place to get some real numbers, some real hard numbers. Maybe you're just going to collect those based off your first sweep of gathering data. Okay, so where you had, I don't know, 16 people complaining about this one item that we need to correct. Then let's see if we go back. Okay, so it's going to be some legwork in the beginning because you got to collect a lot of this data. A little bit easier, I think, to complete, to gather as you're going through the project. Okay, we're going to identify our gaps and our opportunities. This steps involves reviewing your sources of information to determine if gaps or patterns exist in your systems of care that could result in quality programs or problems. Or are there opportunities to make improvements? During the step, you may decide to spend more time discussing the quality themes you have identified with residents and caregivers. Again, the theme, the residents, caregivers, families, they've got to be, we need to have a little bit of their participation, okay? And this step should lead to the next steps involving tips. Questions?
So what I'm taking from it is, even if you think you have one problem, you need to think, process that too, because it may be several little problems, which means several different little QAPIs. So there's really no set number of the QAPI programs we have going on.
No, there's not. And I mean, you can look at it too, is the more you identify areas that you want to improve, the more you kind of look like, you can either look at it as we're the place that has all the broken stuff. Like you can take this back and be like, gosh, we went there and I had 30 problems. Now I feel like I got 65 because now we're saying that a problem can have a problem, can have another problem, right? No, don't look at it that way. Be like, we are going to continually get better. We can get better, but you've got to chip away at it little bits at a time. Because if you try, again, saying to eat an elephant, how do you eat an elephant? Bite it, right? And so as you're stepping through your one problem, you may be like, oh, there's this. Well, is that one more important? Is that a bigger issue that has now come to light? Because we're looking at it through a microscope. Okay, so we want to really look at an issue and then dissect it, and then like, well, that's going to need a couple pips, right? That's going to need another. But we're identifying it and we're putting it on paper and we're writing it down, and we're always answering. We're always trying to improve. We're always trying to get better. Okay, because that's what we're always trying to do, right? We're always trying to make it better.
I think that if you could look at it through the lenses of opportunity, and as those improvements and those small wins start to occur, then your staff are going to get excited about that. Your residents are going to get excited. So you do hit the 55 with, problems or whatever, those are going to turn into more opportunities and they'll be quicker wins.
And we're going to celebrate those.
Yes.
We're going to celebrate the everybody got weighed on Thursday. We are going to celebrate that with cookies, or we're going to celebrate that with Hershey's, bowls of Hershey's Kisses everywhere, because we want the CNAs that are just like, oh, man, just got weighing off. Just got weighing off 50 of them people, right? We ran our tails off. You did. And so McDonald's Cokes or Hershey's Kisses, because you were the best. And because of you, we're going to get there. We are able now to take this data and do something with it. Like, I know you think you're putting it in that computer and it dissolves off to nowhere and you don't hear anything about it until someone yells at you because it's something, right? No, we're going to let them know, like, oh, I needed that so bad. Thank you so much. We're going to overpraise these little things, right? And we're going to celebrate those little ones, because who feels better having a party, right? So we're going to do that, the little bitty wins, because each one is chipping away at what the overall goal is. Okay, we're going to prioritize quality opportunities, and we're going to charter these PIPs. So as you continue to implement QAPI, You and your team will prioritize opportunities for more intensive improvement work. Problems versus opportunities are a matter of perspective and require discussion. We're going to choose problems or issues that we consider important. Remember that problems affecting psychosocial well-being and the ability of the residents to exercise choice should be considered, as they may lead to resident suffering. So we'll go to the weights. So that's an overall weight picture, but then we're going to throw in the nobody's food preferences are getting. Nobody's asking me if I like green beans, and my gosh, you have that 3 times a day. I didn't even know you could have green beans for breakfast till I moved in here. Right? And then you're like, did they really give you green beans for breakfast? And then you question, you know what I'm saying? So we're going to look at that may be something else. Okay. But those are important to our resident, because who would like to live somewhere that every day they give you something you've said you didn't like? Would you start to trust that place with your medicine?
I'd probably start to lose weight if they were feeding me things I don't
Right.
trying to.
I mean, and this is just a little problem. So go back to I'm the person sitting in the bed, the wheelchair, and this keeps happening to me. They trust us with their entire lives, guys. They trust us with everything, and their families trust us with them. And, we can make light of a lot of things. We can have a lot of fun in long-term care. We really can. But certain things have to be met. We have to do certain things right. Knowing what your resident likes and doesn't like is very important. Okay. And when you're looking at problems like this, and you know what, you may have to be like, you know what, I am so sorry that this keeps happening. And we are really working to fix it, because you're right. I wouldn't like it either. Okay. So I want a comprehensive list of what you like and what you don't like. Now, that doesn't mean if I like lobster, okay, that means that's what we have to do, because then we start thinking, oh, well, we're going to give these people everything we want. You don't have to do that. Okay. We're going to plan, conduct, and document our PIPs. Okay, so we're going to write down what we're doing. What are we looking at? What processes are we using? Okay, so we're going to use different models. The PDSA, everybody's used that before at some point, right? And then we're going to get to the root of the problem. So a major challenge in process improvement is getting to the heart of the problem or the opportunity. So your root cause analysis is a term used to describe systemic processes for identifying contributing causal factors that underlie variations in performance. Okay, so RCA helps teams understand that the most immediate or seemingly obvious reason for the problem or an event may not be the real reason that an event occurred. Okay, that's a lot in your falls, correct? You have to really dissect those. Why are we having so many, or what is it? Because everybody was on break, or because that's what we want to go to, right? Because nobody was paying attention. Maybe not. So we're going to dig deeper, okay? And we're going to, RCA focuses on primary systems and processes, not individual performance, okay? So there's something in the process that we've got to look at. It can't just be because somebody had a bad night or something like that. So we're not going to look at just the individual necessarily. We're going to look at, is there a process? Something in the process is broken. All right. And then we're going to take systemic action. So identifying root causes is only the first step in improving performance. Next, you'll want to implement changes or corrective actions that result in improvement or reduce the chance of an event reoccurring. Common solutions such as providing more training, education, asking clinicians to be more careful, do not change the process or the systems. Okay, we're looking at like timing. we're looking at, you have to look at your policies and your procedures. We have to look at what's actually going on in the flow. That's your sit, that's in your nooks and crannies, that's in your little corners of what actually is going on, okay? That's when you want to look at that. These proposed solutions are based on 2 assumptions. Oh, I already read that, didn't I? Okay. So following these 12 steps will help your facility to develop, implement, and maintain an effective, comprehensive, data-driven QAPI program that focuses on systems of care, outcomes of care, and quality of life. Okay. And so you're next, right?
I am next.
Nidra's next. And so I talked about data and gathering it. Now she's gonna help
Figure out the fishbone diagram.
what we're gonna do. How are we gonna track our data?
Anybody have any questions so far over anything? It's a lot. I do hope everybody's gonna be a little more interactive with me because my brain's already spinning about what I want to talk about. But
And
good
this was
job,
my
Sarah.
first
That
time,
was
so-
Sarah's first time, so that was, you did a really good job.
Thank you.
And this is my first time with this clicker, so I'm gonna be a
If
little
you
more
point, it
patient.
should- I only had one slide. I cheated.
Okay. So, I'm Nidra. I am going to be talking to you guys today about a couple of the most commonly used quality improvement tools. The first one being the fishbone diagram. And when I was tasked with this part of speaking, I was extremely leery of it because I've always been very overwhelmed by the fishbone diagram. So I did a little bit of research. I was actually this morning watching YouTube videos because I want to know more, so you guys can know more. And for those of you attending in person, you guys should have these tools. And then virtually, we have people attending virtually, they will be put in the chat.
Just put it in the chat.
Awesome, thank you. So the fishbone models possible root causes and it troubleshoots possible solutions. You may also hear it called the Ishikawa. That's the name of the creator. So he created that in 1960. You may hear it called the herringbone diagram or cause and effect diagram. So when I started to do some research on this, what I found was that, and I never used it. When I was a director of nursing, I never used fishbone. I used the 5 whys because I can do why. It's easier. I thought that. But the fishbone diagram is a very standardized tool. As I started to do some research on it, I found that so if you notice on ours, it says problem statement. So basically the head of the fish is always your problem statement. It's gonna be very small summary of what your problem is. And then the body of the fish, you're going to have your actual causes of your problem are going to come off diagonally from right to left. And those are usually very standardized. It depends on the different processes but you typically see environment, equipment, supplies, policies, procedures, staff, people. As I did a little more this morning on mine, I added residents and families because we're going to do one together, kind of go over it. But this is not set in stone either. You can add whatever you want. Okay. So these are your bones of your fish. And then off of your big bones, you're going to have little bones, which are the whys. So a lot of people will incorporate, and we're going to go over 5 whys, the whys into this as well when they start to get into the contributing factors. Okay. So this is your problem, main causes, contributing factors, whys, essentially. So don't make your fish too bony, because if it becomes too bony, you're going to lose sight of what you're really trying to do. So too bony, not good. Okay. The great thing I think about the fishbone is it gives you a wide view of something, and you're able to look at it and see, an overall picture of it. What I like about it is that, I can put a problem up here and find the root cause of that problem at that moment, but I might also see things that are going to potentially become problems for that later on down the road. So you're looking at the snakes that are closest to you in the grass first, and you're going to prioritize and rank what you need to work on in that moment. It's also, I believe, a very multidisciplinary approach. It's going to take a team to look at this, but it's a brainstorming tool. But in addition to that, you could also give everybody their own fishbone diagram, pass it out, and take all those back in collectively, your little sticky notes, and kind of see everybody's different perspectives on a problem. Like, you're going to get a lot of different views if you have different disciplines in your room. And I'm going to be huge, like Sarah talked about, your frontline staff have to be involved in these things if you want to have long-term positive outcomes, because there just can't be a divide in that area, because they are the ones that are literally doing the work. So and pounding the pavement, and they get very frustrated at times that our doors are closed. So if you can include them in that part of your world, and they're seeing that piece of it, they're going to be much more engaged. And my thing would be, I would include the most challenging CNA per se, because they're usually the ones, they're challenging you because they care about the residents. Their approach may not always be appropriate, but if they're coming to you with these things, it's because they really usually care about the residents. So I went ahead and so for root cause analysis with the fishbone, I had to think about this, because this is very simplified, but at the same time, I want to put it into action. So say you're doing your monthly infection control report, okay? And you notice that you have an uptick in infections in general. You can look at this. So you have an increase in the spread of infections. That could be your problem statement. I've added management. So like this tool we have has a little more on it, but you can add whatever you want to the actual causes of the problem. So on mine, I put management on there. Are we doing surveillance and audits on the staff, hand washing, procedures, policies? Are there standardized processes in place for infection control? Residents and families, a big thing right now, are the residents washing their hands? This is a huge thing right now. We're going around saying, are they washing their hands before and after their meals? Oh, my daughter, who's a brand new CNA, when you take a resident to the restroom, wheel them up after they've gone to the restroom and say, all right, let's wash our hands. Like, those are things that go by the wayside, and sometimes they don't think to do that. Are family members coming in sick? What I know that we're getting to the wayside with the COVID stuff, but we still need to recognize that, people coming in sick is putting our population at risk. Are people not following the isolation procedures that we do have in place? Dementia and behavior residents, this is the best. A lot of times they're going to go wherever they want to go, and you're going to have a hard time having them keep a mask on or stay in their room or isolate. So that's a resident family problem. Procedures. So for processes and procedures, and again, let's get in our little bones. Are the policies, are they best practice? Are they antiquated? Are they out of date? Do they need updated? Do we need to do a review of our policies and procedures? Are we following our policies and procedures? Do staff know the policies and procedures? Okay, these are your little bones. Equipment and materials. Do we have enough cleaning supplies? Are we having trouble getting them? Are we using the right supplies? Do we have broken equipment? Do we need to order new equipment? Staff, what are your nurses' nails look like when they're going in and doing wound care? What are CNA's fingernails look like? Are they following the PPE stuff that's put into place? Are they doing their hand hygiene? Are they burnt out? Are they tired? Are they running short? What are the onboarding processes? When are we teaching them these policies and procedures? Environment, where are the hand washing stations? When we do walkthroughs of facilities, a lot of times we'll look and see, where are your hand sanitizer stations? Do they have hand sanitizer in them? Are you making it accessible to staff, residents, families? What about some of the common areas, the therapy room, in and out? Are they using hand sanitizer? Dining room time, meal times. So for management, I think that management would need to look at, what are your onboarding processes? What are your training processes? Are you following policies and procedures? Do they need updated? So that's like an overall look at an infection control uptick for this. And like I said, once you really get into the littler bones, you're looking at the whys. Why? You can do 5 whys once you get into the smaller bones with the fishbone diagram. So, and you can prioritize. So you may find that, the bigger problem is the hand hygiene is the main reason we have an uptick in infections right now. But as you're looking at it, hey, we do need to look at our policies and procedures. You know how often guidance changes with COVID. Is the guidance even up to date? Are we following best practice? So those are some things to look at with that. Does anybody have any questions about the fishbone?
Really, I just got a point to make. I really like the idea about encouraging folks to hand that out
Mhm.
in the meetings, because you're gonna get several ideas and then you can kind of collect them and bring them back into one. I think that's excellent. But then also to keep in mind too, that some folks are better to think and process it through and write it down. And then you're gonna have some folks that want to shout all the answers out. So getting that collectively, you might really get a lot of good responses you wouldn't have had before. I think that's an excellent idea to do that.
And also, I'm going to say this now, and I'm going to say it again probably, but I'm not going to tell you that any one QI tool is better than the other. If you're doing your root cause analysis and really getting to the root of the problem, that's all that really matters. Okay. Now you might find some, because if you tell somebody, go do this fishbone diagram, and they really just don't get it, if they're better with a different one, then you want them to be using a different one. You want to have, the best results. So, any other questions? Yay. Okay, 5 whys. This one, this is why I love the 5 whys. I mean, it's just, I love the 5 whys for something that's happening right there in that moment too, or needs a solution right there in that moment. The 5 whys, so if you look this up, it will tell you that it's iterative, interrogative, which means all that means is it's repeat questions is what it is. It was pioneered at Toyota in the 1930s, and it is a cause and effect QI tool for a specific problem. The root cause is going to be your problem statement, and then beyond that, you're going to have your problem statement, and then why is going to be answered by another why, and so forth and so on. They call it the 5 whys. 5 whys is not a magical number. You may find your solution or your root cause before 5, and you may have to dig much deeper. You may get to your 5 and be like, oh Lord, we have a bigger problem, and have to go beyond that. So don't get stuck on the number 5. So I did a simple with the 5 whys of like, my problem statement was I got a speeding ticket this morning because I got caught speeding. Why? I was late for work. Why? I got up late. Why? My alarm didn't go off. Why? My batteries were dead. I'm going to buy a plug-in alarm clock probably at that point. But then I wanted to apply it to something else. So I started to think about it because I wanted to put it. So when I was talking about the 5 whys and how I feel like it's really good in certain circumstances, I can think of, it's racking my brain for these things, but this is actual scenario I had before. I had HR business office manager saying, so we'll say Taylor, CNA Taylor, she gets overtime every time she works. Every time she works, she's here for 45 minutes past her shift. What is she doing? And so I have her come in. I'm like, okay, why are you here 45 minutes past your shift every time? They're asking me about it. And she says, well, I'm stuck in the dining room at dinner until 6:45 every night. She's supposed to get off at 6 because none of the other CNAs will come relieve me. I'm sure people have heard this, okay? Dining room, meal times. So it sounds like the main issue is like she's stuck in there because the CNAs won't relieve her. But why are you still in the dining room? Why? Well, I'm still in there because I'm having to feed Susie and Don at the feed table, okay, at 6:45. Why? Why are they still eating at 6:45? Well, they get served last, feed table. Why? Well, we get them up last and bring them to the dining room last. Why? I don't know. That's what they told me to do. Okay. Guys, that's a simple solution right there. These are your feeders. They're the slowest eaters. The solution to that in my mind, and I literally have done this before, is, all right, we're just gonna get our feeders up first, girls, and then we're gonna bring them to the dining room, and hey, dietary, guess what? The feeds get fed first. So really, I'm gonna quit. They don't relieve me at 6:45, which they should, so that's another part of your issue there. But at the same time, that's a pretty simple solution. But sometimes people in that moment are like, all they see is, I was supposed to get out of here at 6. It's 6:45. So if you look at it beyond that, sometimes there's a really easy solution. Sometimes there's not, but your CNA should be relieving the other CNAs too. So there's that. Any questions about the 5 whys? Are these tools that you guys are already using? Yeah, okay. Any questions? Chat?
Well, I always like to share a little bit of best practices. And from the facility, they put the 5 why in with their incident reports. So in the incident reports, they attached several copies of it. So it actually went to, of course, the nurse, but then to however many was on the floor that night, or CNAs that were a part of that. Each one of them got everyone. And then it was a constant why. So you got like 20 whys out of one report. And then when they looked over it in IDT rounds, not only just as an individual thing, but as a facility, they started seeing some commonalities that maybe it wasn't just an individual fall. It was a problem with assistance in the dining room, or there was a problem with, well, to come right out with it, what they found was they were doing shift change in the middle of evening meal. And nobody was on the calls, and nobody really wanted to get in here and get started in the dining room, and somebody else wanted to finish, and then people were leaving the dining room, going out on the hallway. The residents were
Need to go to the bathroom.
and to go to the restroom by themselves, and nobody was there to help orchestrate that. So that became not only a 5 whys, but it also became part of like a systems issue within that building. So they switched over from not the 5 whys, but then again to the fishbone, and even worked out that part. The solution they had found out was several solutions had to be put into place, several remedies. One, we can't do shift change at 5:45 when dinner is last until 6:30. It's just not going to work. So we're going to change our shifts from 7 to 7 or stagger it. They also assigned someone to be that person on the floor, or the catcher, which really they done. That was a term, an endearing term that they use, someone to be there, someone to catch you if you need to go to the restroom, if you're going to fall, to prevent that. They also put permanent person in the dining room. You start the dining, you finish the dining room. So someone is permanently there watching it, nobody's falling while they're in there. And when they leave, someone is there in the hallway to help them navigate that. But again, shift change needed to place. So it was 2 different parts of those, and 2 tools that went together for that, multiple things. When I visited 3 weeks after they found that, put all those changes in place, they went from, they had 60% falls within that last quarter to 5% falls. So it was a big problem that they did not realize, that all stemmed from people not knowing where they needed to be and be accounted for, and also a fault of the facilities changing in the midstream of evening down. So remedies like that, 2 tools were needed.
Well, and 5 whys, like, it's great for immediate. I love it for incidents and falls, because, you know, if somebody falls at 7 p.m. at night, we're not going to review that. Say it's a Friday night on top of that. If your nurse and your CNAs in that moment can 5 why that, it could be something as simple as, he's fallen twice this shift because his cell phone, he leaves it in bed when he gets up and he moves to his recliner. I mean, it could be something that you can fix right then. So that's what I love about that tool. So right now, what we're going to do is I'm going to present a scenario in a moment, and then Teresa's going to tell us how she would like us to break out into teams. And we're going to use the tools that we've just gone over so you're going to basically perform and document your QAPI or your PIP on this scenario with your root cause analysis, interventions, changes, plans to implement those, and how you're going to audit and track. Okay. So you can use the QI tool of your choice, whichever one. Neither one are better than the other. The scenario is during the monthly QAPI meeting at Happy Holler Healthcare, it was identified that several residents had noted extreme fluctuations in both daily and monthly weights. During the discussion, the charge nurse noted an inconsistent practice of obtaining the weights. Different staff were obtaining weights, different scales were being utilized, weights were being obtained at different times of the day, and they were utilizing different methods. Different wheelchairs, not removing oxygen containers, some were standing versus sitting. I always put this in place. I used to have a little lady who wore a ton of jewelry and had a wig, and sometimes they would weigh her with that and sometimes without. And people are like, would that really make a difference? Yes, it did. Yes, it did. And she had congestive heart failure. And by God, we needed that 1 pound to be like there. So, and then the QAPI steering committee decided to launch a PIP regarding the weight fluctuation trend that was identified.
So, what we're gonna do is we're gonna split into two groups. And, you don't mind which group you want. I'm gonna keep one group here and one group here. So along that table, if you don't mind to join one of them. And then we're gonna use this tool. It's the QAPI plan outline. And guys, literally, it can be taken back to your facilities and used over and over and over again. And you will come out with good outcomes. So when you get in your teams, I'm also gonna have Sarah and Marilyn join a team in Nidra. So we can have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll have 4 to 5 people in each group. And then we're going to, can you put back up the scenario? We're gonna go through this scenario. It is me. Did I move that?
No.
Okay.
Mhm.
It's me. I'm the problem. I'm the problem.
I can.
So. So, but why did you turn me? Okay, so we're gonna look through this scenario. Leave it up. You guys get in your teams. We're gonna take 15 minutes. We're gonna use whatever tool that you want. And we're going to put it on the outline. And then in 15 minutes, there is no wrong or right answer. So we're gonna all come back together and we're gonna discuss our plan to correct.
Oh, they have them. They have them in their
Okay.
groups, so.
I know. Oh my God, bless.
We can use the Wi-Fi, or we can use, so what we have about council meeting reports. I wish I had a pencil. I guess you guys have paint to write on. Oh, we have some. Yeah. Daily and monthly. What did you want to? Oh, no, set practice. Okay, so. So you said that. Different staff. We're obtaining. Yeah, I know, I'm happy.
She's really
Scales.
smart.
Okay.
But she never worked. So this meeting's great.
You got
Right.
right.
Yeah, I can tell she just sucked.
We don't want to. I didn't think scale. She wanted to stand.
Yeah.
She wants to stand, but it's a warrior.
You guys can read it.
She's good and she's smart too.
She's enlarged it. So during the monthly QAPI meeting, Happy Holler Healthcare, it was identified several residents have noted extreme fluctuations in both daily and monthly weights. During your discussion, the charge nurse noted an inconsistent practice of obtaining weight. So that's one problem, or inconsistent. Meaning they probably use several different devices. Or scale, stand-up scale. setting scale.
Yeah, so.
Scale located in the building. Walk down the
Yeah,
hall.
we started.
Yeah, we know the trickery. So different weights were being utilized and how do we typically just figure out what are we doing wrong? We really moved it all into having it be in the wrong ways to know. Right.
Right. We got an email showing no communication. We do it. And it's putting kilograms.
But they didn't, not even equate to one. you know?
Kind of giving us guidance.
Right.
No guidance. That's what I think of this was for that. Have a wheelchair that. She helped us. How much does?
Do we do this first and then we're gonna do that?
So why?
So the problem is inconsistent weights. So,
I guess,
so you want to make sure.
I guess
probably.
The nurses.
You can use to, as you get your answers. Because this is basically the form, it's a 12 steps.
Bring that.
So, just a minute. We'll come to this problem, I mean, as you're. Find your problem. And then you're gonna outline it. You're gonna do that. So they may have to go into the whole piece.
I know.
Yeah.
We started.
Well, you know, it's cheap.
No, we discussed a lot. Yes, listen.
Skills, stuff.
Right. See, the problem is that those. Sometimes they have, of course, you could, so yeah, so that's a great, yeah.
So you're going to try this for guys. Now they're going to wait double chairs. How we want them to, you know, people have wheelchairs.
Right.
Okay.
Staffing and.
I think, because I found that was ideal. Yeah.
We had shark tank.
Well, to start off with, I told the MBS nurse, like she would take certain days to do.
So she would be your one champion.
Yeah, we have a couple of different nurses that are not compromised. And then after, I mean, then it, you know, results. So,
Right.
after doing that, having assistants. They kind of, yeah, start to. Have to do it because if you don't, there's no more.
And even like, so let's just say, if they know your champion, they're gonna keep on, keeping on. And so if they have or set the heart for the contracts. The horse is the odds. The volunteer half. You know.
And I was so thankful because the state. Right.
So,
I mean, if I said, shit, what's. So I think.
So you show.
Yeah, and we, of course, the person. checked the state.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
like, sure, we had somebody come in and. Because we were, because it was such a.
Yeah.
We're keeping it.
Yeah. Because that makes.
Yeah.
Maybe there's.
Yeah, and they were. Scales too, sometimes they would. Scales. The chair scale.
And so I mean, I think that's okay as long as we got.
And you're gonna look for it.
what specific
Then
patient.
you're gonna result to,
what
what's your
specific
favorite
scale.
PAP?
So,
How would you like
yeah.
Leave it two, right?
Okay.
Don't do that.
Yeah,
Don't do that.
brand new DLA.
Yeah, you got wonderful research.
Yeah, I know.
Do you have
I'm gonna fill mine
Yeah,
out.
I actually brought them.
No, you did. I didn't. It was just.
Really, you said a first.
Are our whys, the different ways.
Contact information is in some scale, all of them.
I did how to use it, like, they might just say the toys are nice and they just put their validated correctly, so that was one thing I did. Remember, she had, but this is for use, this is for us. So that way. It's just great.
Don't wait with your jewelry and wait. Just make little comments on there.
Yeah.
You know, always scales or whatever, but if you- what is the?
Have consistent.
Okay, and how much is it?
Yeah, keep pressure.
Yes. Get some picture here.
Do they have how many? Are they out there on the table? Get it.
So this is later.
But you know, I mean, you have to
Okay.
take into consideration while like residents are
Here.
you know.
Yeah, he refused.
Yeah,
That was one of the ones
This
that's on the
this
refusal.
morning,
Yeah, because I'm
So I
sure.
mean, if that's the case, you know, you can have a fair conference with them. And like, I would say, you know, explain this, that, everything.
So this is who, this is kind of who we would want in our team.
So,
Then tells us.
you know, all the time, what, explain everything.
Not sure.
I was gonna say, that's excessive, yeah.
Because he's always over.
And you
I mean,
can
like
adjust-
per shift, 22 or 32 per shift is well over.
If you need to adjust that based on residents, care plan, conference. Show that, but do all that you can.
His daughter, she was in the other day and she said, you know, I do all the other. So they need to have her come in and weigh him. That might be something that we need to think about.
Yes.
We may be charged.
In that scope, like that's, this is our like team. that
I
we're-
may be wrong.
Do you live around there? No.
Yeah, she's only been with us, this is her second. She doesn't know.
If you're gonna do it, that's the way to do it.
It is, it's a good deal.
CNAs, if they're more planned.
Yeah.
Maintenance. That's why does.
Yes.
She
you
does.
should.
Yeah.
Not real quick.
Yeah, and I mean, in that position, you're gonna. You're just gonna come back to something.
I was looking for training, but I didn't see where IHCA or CPA didn't have the training.
IHCA has conference.
Yeah, but they, I don't see any DON.
I mean, we can. It's up there, but I mean, we can always come in. facility
Like,
or-
like our mission statement.
Yeah, that's how you know, like.
That's my primary background is that.
Yeah, Ellie's.
Jim texted me.
Yeah.
And she's gonna come tomorrow, Thursday.
Yeah,
Yes.
but any of us. can
God
come and
love
tell
her
us.
to see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so.
You
You
know,
know,
tell you
Deanna-
getting in trouble, but to fix.
Yeah.
She's sweet though.
She is a sweetheart, and God love
Yeah.
her, I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
we'll have that.
But I think as far as education goes, these things.
I'm gonna start back taking notes. Actually, I'll figure out this.
Yeah, and I think that the building.
Kim, are you doing okay?
This start.
Yeah.
250 beds.
I figured you were handling it.
Why didn't you move after the first one?
That's exactly what I.
I was looking for my mom to like do something
Yeah,
about him. She's
yeah.
like, why didn't you move after the first time you guys?
Communicating with you. He clearly wanted you out.
I mean, it's a good field.
So that one, you're gonna, what do you want? What is?
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, they'll order your cards. And she will. Yeah, they can pass them out. It's nice to have them out.
Do you have cards? Not yet.
You don't want us calling you?
You got my email, and my phone number's on
Oh,
there.
yeah, you.
And you can call me. Sometimes I can figure out the phone and sometimes I cannot.
Well, I just.
Oh, your computer's ringing.
Well, I don't run by yourself. On there.
What is doing?
So I always get the stuff. Separate. So we don't get the right person.
You probably have mine.
There's yours,
Yeah,
there's mine.
Leanne, it hasn't changed.
You're connected.
Specific measurable actionable kind of powers that your body's saying. It's essentially just that they have inconsistent weights based on it.
We're gonna do it at 11, but. Because all the reweights are done. I was seeing if we set it up to do it whenever they. I mean, that would make sense. There's such happening completely unclothed and.
I think as long as it's a consistent practice, and it's consistent content, and like best practice says, on-rising after the first void.
And why?
However, not a lot of
Because
people
when we're
get
looking at
up.
why we have several
As long as you're consistently,
terminally ill.
you know, weighing, John.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Same time.
I mean, you know. and
With
like
the-
us, but
I guess we have,
Yeah.
you guys already talked about that, make sure that they're using the same mechanism to weigh.
Well, and we discussed. Surely there's.
Yeah.
List of
And then you're
that CNA advisor that.
You're also gonna want to make sure
Wheelchair
you're
made
on
on
that.
So it's like, but so-and-so had a wheelchair changed out by therapy.
Are they fall
It's like, why do they have a
process?
it was like to the
Are they?
pound, to the ounce, like change of why they.
Well, and it's like, oh, you have oxygen on it this time, you don't have oxygen on it, like, here, it's like. Or they have their banana and their tissues and their blanket and their, it's like, stuff just.
So we're gonna replace that usually. With what Jones looks like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Weight is listed
More
on
now
there.
than ever.
Yes, right.
You
No
know,
hydrogen or not.
so on the floor, I'm like, well, did you
Usually,
say, don't,
if I fill the canister, totally full of my weight, but
Mom, I know.
No, I was there last week.
Right.
So what does Miss Jones look like when she's gonna get like Miss Jones? This,
Like, I have to tell them.
Others on.
So I'm not.
We're gonna replace that sheet exactly what they look like. Because we don't have a way to.
Yeah.
Well, the residents don't always understand either. Why we-
Yeah.
why you-
And sometimes it's okay.
Yeah, I think that's.
Oh, somebody, it's okay. You educate there.
Oh, but right, what is like having right down what, especially that's our biggest challenge at our facilities. Turnover. And it's, you know, I mean, it's just hard to become. And they're getting their weight upon admission.
Yeah, so basically.
Yeah.
Well, what did you do?
Like you said, the hospital,
Specific
right,
measurable,
goes
actionable,
to-
time focused goals.
and which is. no,
But
no,
the goal of the
or she
course
too, which I didn't get it.
Like, there's like, yeah.
So, and
Consistent
then
act-
it's also 9 o'clock or 11 or whatever time, and then. Welcome to spring. News for COVID, we should make it check your skin and what's gonna be.
Repair and services effective.
Yeah, would you like a new milk or pie?
They had to- No, they discharged me at 4, but the ambulance didn't pick me up till 8. The hospital's been.
Yeah, I don't know. One gentleman, he has.
Oh, and they didn't send that page
So
to the
the
pharmacy.
concern is.
So let me call.
Yes, it's already maxed out. So.
So I'm not sure why you're so little.
Oh,
When I come to meet you.
What could we do better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what happens? They go to the next place. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
we're just triaging, but. We're trying to get.
yeah,
And when he first came in,
so, you know,
just like
maybe we
that,
have
was
to have
maybe
you
you don't get the job.
permission.
All righty. 5 minutes past the time. I'm sure you guys enjoyed those 5 minutes, right? Yeah, did everybody kind of come to a decent spot?
Well, Freelandville just went through this.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Do we kind of see, I commonly, I see when I, not, with QAPI, do we see, sometimes I walk into buildings and it's like, that's a quality measure meeting, or that's a quarterly meeting, that's not really QAPI. We see a kind of a difference now that we've kind of gone over. There's a quarterly meeting where you report out, and then there's a QAPI meeting that's systems. Okay, so that was the intent of that. This table, what did you guys identify as the problem?
Inconsistent.
And you guys come to the same conclusion, inconsistent ways?
yes.
Now, free for all. Why do we have inconsistent ways?
Different times, scales, different stuff and documentation.
Did you guys have that one?
No, but I like it.
All right, thank you for that, because that is my point of why, did you guys come up with that? Not because you missed something, but because the point of these meetings and the point of all of us coming together without competition, without your building's better than mine kind of drama, we come to the same life problem, right? So they had a best practice, you guys, and now you get to share it and take it back to your building. Guess who benefits from that? Right, and not only the residents, but who else gets to benefit from that? All of you, yes. I want to get my name badge on when I go to Walmart and I have to take it off. Yeah, I've been there, okay? So it's good when you watch your people out in public and they keep their name badge on here. Okay, all right, what's the next thing? We've got inconsistent weights and we've got lack of education and we've got different wheelchairs, is that right? So different mechanics, that kind of stuff. What are we going to do about lack of education?
Yeah.
Educate?
Review the onboarding, get re-education.
We had, Kelly, weren't you there when this was open?
Actually,
Were you one of them that kind of helped the staff? You went in with them in the mornings when they
Yeah.
weighed to kind of just do education with them one-on-one.
See, they're watching them to make sure they know how to do the actual weight.
I kind of picked up on both of that. One, Kelly's going into, you noticed that there was a problems with actually getting the weights. So Kelly goes to the scene of the crime. And to the scene of the crime, she gets, are we weighing people? Plus she's able to do one-on-one education. Plus she's doing a skills checkoff. Multitasking, that's fast, right? Good.
All right, we created a what someone looks like when you weigh them. So we all have, you're talking about a cheat sheet in the back of a binder of what the wheelchairs weigh. Well, we're gonna say, what do they look like when we weigh them? So they look like, the pedals on or off the wheelchair. Make sure the wheelchairs have their identifying. What are they wearing when they weigh? What scale are they using? And that's a cheat sheet. Okay.
Okay.
Because we want them to look the same every time. And so we could create that. They were watching and weighing.
The day you're at the crime, the day you're at the observation, the day you're at the skill checkoff and doing one-on-one. Okay. Good, that's excellent. What else did we find?
Well, Freelandville, they actually called and had their scales calibrated.
Very
Ding,
good.
ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an
Better maintenance.
Big
than all
deal.
that.
And what about you guys do you guys check the calibration? Maintenance man does it? Do you guys have a system in place when your maintenance man checks yours? Is it the same thing?
He
Or
does ours monthly, or if there's, like today I have to do this because, 7.2 pounds.
Okay.
The nurse comes to me and says, okay, she's down like 7 pounds. What? So I go in there So she's at 0.2 ounces. I'm like, oh, well, it's negative 7.2, it wouldn't zero. So I'm like, okay, well, if we add the 7.2, there we go. Okay, but anywho, but
So you identified another issue of education and because we didn't zero out our scales.
well, and then it wouldn't let us zero out. So now we go back to the maintenance man who gets to help us. For
I
some
didn't
reason.
know that. I heard you writing that down.
So maybe did staff member not, did they try to zero it out, you think? They try, and then when they couldn't, they're just like, wait. And then
No, she came and got me.
yeah, you get her a coat. Because a lot of times they do the whole, you reward that. Because a lot of times, they're like,
Thank you for telling me there was a
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
I'll just go with it. There's a
Or
way.
in my scenario, they might just type in the same weight for a month and then
Yeah, that
have
happens
to
a lot,
find an
too.
IJ.
So constantly being able to, I mean, the quicker you can find that problem, the better to avoid any kind of malarkey that might hear.
Right.
Well, there is malarkey.
Word of the day.
Yeah,
malarkey.
malarkey is yeah, I love when I get to do the.
Like
Yeah. What else did you guys find? You guys find any other problems or causes for your
The
weight?
charge nurses weren't really taking charge. She did say that she felt like that was something which, that maybe that they knew the process, that they weren't taking charge and ownership of that.
Been watching staff.
Yeah.
What do you think that was?
Don't want to lose staff.
I ain't babysit.
Or don't want to stay over, tell managers.
I ain't gonna
to-
babysit residents, I ain't gonna babysit staff and residents.
CNA should know how to do their job. We've heard it all, right? But it is, I was a charge nurse at one point, and it was really hard for me because I've been on both sides of the coin, and I was in the same building. I worked as a CNA for 2.5, 3 years in a building. Long time I've been a CNA, but in this building, I worked as a CNA while I went to nursing school. They all knew I was going to go to nursing school. They were all very supportive. They worked my schedule around. It was great. And I was such loving people until I passed my boards. No, and I didn't have any friends. I'm telling you, this is a true story. So the nurses still viewed me as CNA. So they were trying to train me. And then I had the CNAs who were bitter because we couldn't go to dinner at the same time because all of a sudden I was better than
You're a traitor.
I was a traitor. But yet, we all knew that I was going through there, so I had to work through that on my own. But when that scenario happens, like literally, I was trying to run and get away and to pass the med because I could do both, so I could be friends with everybody again. So, yeah, it was pretty crazy. So then at one point, I had to put my foot down and say, no. But as I learned from that experience, like you guys were talking about, whose role is who, this is your charge nurse, love. You are the charge nurse. And this is the CNAs that are working on your unit with you. And they are your responsibility to make sure everything gets done. Please don't micromanage them. We're all adults. However, you are accountable for them. CNAs, you are given an assignment and you have many duties. But at the end of the day, you are responsible for this and accountable for this. So on those conversations, we kind of need to go back and have a let's all come together again and realize that we are all accountable and we all need to hold each other accountable, and there is a system and why there is a system. Oftentimes in facilities, and that's why we don't take the accountability of somebody else's job, is because we as management staff probably need to do a better job about empowerment and holding them to accountability. Accountability has been really hard for us in the past 3 years because we wanted to keep them, right? So that's fine. That's fine. However, really deep down, we want structure and we want guidance and we need somebody to hold us accountable. And the ones that are going to stomp their foot and say, I'm just going to go down the road and work at the other building. Yeah. You'll be back.
And
because
you
you're
will
gonna
have
keep
the
saying
ones
it.
that do it and you let them go.
That's right. But when you set standards,
She's the best.
when you set accountability, and when you empower people, that's when you make change. Okay? And that's where we come to this roundtable. During all of these things, who would you invite to ask for an opinion on how we were going to correct the charge nurse not making sure the CNA's got the weight? Who are we gonna invite to the table to ask for opinions or some interventions on that? Who else could come to that coffee meeting? Yeah. Is maintenance man there? Because he had a problem there.
Well, I mean, you're affecting, I mean, NAR is affected, it's a weight, potential weight changes, so, you know, you're talking about dietary management.
Okay, so we've got maintenance, a charge nurse, and a CNA. We've got, who else could come to this about this specific topic?
Activities that are providing snacks.
Activities, not a relax oatmeal bar. That was really not very sweet to me, but one of those chocolate covered food down. And then you
Swiss roll.
yeah, Swiss roll, thank you. Yeah.
We mentioned our doctors as well, because that could be, you know, we may have to look at their orders for CHF people.
Mhm. That's a good thing, because if they have CHF and we're maintaining their weight, are we all, is that forever gonna be? Because sometimes we tend to grab an order and leave it forever. So while we're talking weights, would maybe it be a good idea to kind of also review orders for weights? Maybe some of them are no longer appropriate.
Or we have, in our scenario, it was a resident that doesn't want to be weighed every day, so we talked about having the care conference, you know, doing the documentation, doing the care plan. So probably social services in that aspect should be involved as well. Yeah.
I had a facility talk to me about this lady that had just done everything possible for her, and that she was still losing weight, and they were gonna get in so much trouble. Let's say that was the thing, so much trouble. So I went through everything. I said, just tell me what you're doing with her, give me the layout, brief history, give me the layout so I can do some, really have this turn it into the Wi-Fi. Oh, Jesus. But the lady is 97 years old. She's got more comorbidity diagnoses than I could ever find. And they've given her extra meals and extra calorie food and ice cream, and she drank 6 regular Cokes a day. She loves them. And she's still, what? And then I said, and how does the family feel, and how does this one? And then they come out, well, and then we even got hospice in here, and they're doing hospice on her now too. So it's in OF, and they said, yo, why are we waiting? So we went through 35 minutes of telling me all these wonderful things, and then they said, yeah, she's on hospice. And why are you waiting?
Yeah.
What? Because maybe that is the problem. Maybe
Maybe she's annoyed by the fact that you're getting her up every day until you skips. Makes me
I
cry.
think it's a win-win. It's not.
Okay.
It's a win-win that the lady's getting sick coat down everything.
But sometimes people can't see outside of the rules and regulations.
But when I said that.
Yeah.
Why are you getting away? She's on hospital. So
Just that
this
you
was
gave them
exactly, it was permission. It was, they were scared if they didn't do the way
Yeah,
they weren't doing their job. So when I finally said, it's not necessary, then it wasn't necessary. So problem solved, but it went 30 wide before that. And they already had them. Okay. So anything else you guys found?
I think,
Yes.
but I think it's also a good idea because you know those changes are gonna happen. People are gonna go hospice. People are gonna have changes. I think it's a good idea to have whoever, unit manager, assistant director of nursing, somebody be the person that is going to be monitoring that. And I had unit managers before, and it was like, if somebody changed, you know, that, I don't even know, they said, you know, somebody's weight's gonna change if they go out one day and have an amputation, come back the next, like, you have to update your stuff as you go, so having a champion for that is a good idea too.
Absolutely. Well, let's lead into that. We're going a little bit over, but you guys are doing an excellent job, and we'll just wrap it up. So problem was inconsistent weights. You guys have found that some of the issues that surround that in your problem solving were lack of education, lack of accountability, different weight scales, a maintenance issue, calibration, plus knowledge of how each person needs to be weighed. So it sounds to me like we have a job for maintenance, we have somebody to do education, and we also need someone for accountability and a system in place for how we're going to weigh folks, correct? Now, how are we going to implement that? how are we gonna say that there's a system in place to weigh folks? What are some ideas to put into place? Because you actually have to put the system in place. Who's gonna be accountable for the weekly weights?
That would be depending on your setup of your facility, so, DON, ADON, unit managers, whoever you want to. And
Are we gonna weigh at a certain time of day?
I liked, scheduling them each, like with the shower, what Kelly said,
yes.
because we can't have a weight champion because it doesn't fall under our PPD, right? So if the same person is given their shower, having that consistent time, because that's based on their preference, which is, but again, like what you were saying with holding them accountable in a positive way, like, yes, you're working as a team, but you're accountable to chart for these people and to make sure they're clean, dry fed, look nice, and you got their weight. You have these people to weigh today, or
Do you guys have
we have matrix on your floor.
we put weights on our
Our
cars?
cars. So you can put them on your cars. That's a good idea. You could also, even if you have point click care or matrix, we don't lose the back to basics. Have a facility CNA assignment sheet.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here's another thing that they'll do. They'll get their CNA assignment sheet and take only the folks that belong to them and throw the rest of the papers away. Absolutely not. You are to keep that assignment sheet of everybody on there, because if a state surveyor comes to you and say, I noticed that you just took Kelly to the restroom. How did you know how to transfer Kelly? Because it says right here.
Yes.
That's what we need to transfer. Yes. So maybe going back, it sounds like maybe going back into your facilities, look at your CNA assignment sheets, update them. Make sure all that information is on there. Your nurses need to be aware and know what their weight is and who's their weight that day. Maybe we also need to look at shift to shift reporting. How well is that going? Are we capturing everything that we knew? Are we communicating with the next shift? This needs to be done, this needs to be done, whatever. Being consistent that way. So who's going to monitor that piece?
Should be probably go to the same person that's going to be monitoring the weights. Same with, assignment sheet, right? It needs to be somebody that's updating that,
Yeah.
checking
So
that.
it could be medical records, it could be ADON,
Or you
it
may
could
find
be,
CNA that
yeah.
will do that.
it could be a CNA that keeps it.
Maybe you have, they're doing that work every day, and they'd be like, wait, I know that's different, that's
Yeah.
changed, and they want to tell you so you can change. Don't take that on, be like,
Yeah.
how good are you with Microsoft Word?
It's the setup of your
Right?
facility, like
Yeah.
a lot of times I would have a QMA scheduler that would do things like that. Because they can do those things.
Yeah, somebody that owns the building. If you got that person that's constantly coming to you and saying, well, if I did, make them own. And you'll see. They'll
That's
come to you.
suggestion too.
Yeah,
Can't do it all.
yeah, they'll come to you.
Fine.
So, and then ultimately, we need some kind of report each time, so make someone accountable, set a dateline for that person to report back. And then you guys constantly review it over there. Remember that when we do QAPIs, it's kind of helped me around the whole QAPI process, because it seems so simple, and then you're like, wait a minute, maybe not. So a QAPI is a giant care plan for your building. Problem, then we have a goal and we have intervention. In nursing, I was always taught, because I love care plans. I'm like Marilyn Weir about her regulations. I am really crazy about care plans. I love them too much. But we're not, like, I could get really excited about, like, I'll do them all day long. I love her. So, but there was a time in nursing school, I hated them. I could not understand them. And I remember my nursing instructor, like, coming for me a lot, because I tried to avoid them constantly, and now they're my favorite thing ever. It's because I didn't understand, and then I tackled it. But always remember, problem, and then you want a goal. Rule of thumb, 3 interventions. Gonna set you up for success every single time. But that goal, you have to constantly reeval. You constantly have to see if it's working, and also make it obtainable. If you're not meeting your goal, something's wrong with your interventions, change them. Just constantly have that mindset. So if you can set that up in your mind that way, it really did help me out as well. So does QAPI seem a little better for you guys today? Okay. I do want to offer too, that there has been more than I can possibly count that have actually gone in, and our team members will as well. We've sat in on your QAPI meetings and been that person in the background going, what? Or how come you did it that way? Or what? not because I'm trying to be nosy or dig at you, it's because I'm trying to, we're brainstorming. And then when you do that and you kind of, it clicks what I'm doing, you're gonna do that as well. And then you're gonna have a very effective meeting. Rome was not built in a day, and you will not solve it in a day. You have to constantly be back and back and back and back and go over it. You want your care plan to be successful. You want your property plan to be successful. So, we'll offer to come into your facilities and do so individually with you guys, set in your meetings with you and do so. There's Zoom meetings. You can call us and we'll set in that way, whatever you want. We're here for you. The beauty of the QIO and this team is we will meet you where you are and help you in the way that you need help. Okay. And then if you don't know how you need help, we'll help you figure it out. It's okay. Or maybe we'll figure it along with you. All right. Now, everybody got a binder today of those resources, right? These tools that we use today, you've got more out there. They're on our website, or you can just call us and we'll send you more. You also got this packet here. This is the Nursing Home Collaborative Report. It's just everybody in this region. We've taken your quality measures right out of the your CMS data reporting, your CAPR report, and we have compared this region with the state. So if you're really at a loss for like where we need to go with sloppy and what are some high up things, all of these quality measures, you want to be below the state average. Use this as a guide.
Yeah.
When you use this as a guide, say like you pick your UTI rate in your building is way higher than you want. You start making that a coffee program, and you think that you're solving UTI problems, but you're bringing awareness to decreasing septicemia. You're bringing awareness so we're not sending people out to the hospital and the ED, and we're not making silly phone calls to the doctor and getting antibiotics that are not needed. And maybe we just have a fluid problem in the building. So doing things like that, you're going to bring light to 5 or 6 different things. So we are out there to help you. And again, I really want to make it clear, very clear, and it's hard for us to have those trusting abilities about us. We're not regulatory. Normal, I go and pick up a phone to someone that's regulatory and say, go look there. It's not working. Okay, number one, it's a lot of work. Number two, we have to trust each other. And when we trust each other, that means we're going to share information, truthful information, and we're going to get to the root of the problem a lot quicker. And then everybody's going to be benefiting of that. So reach out to your QIO, reach out to us. There's no judgment, there's no citations, and we are truly there with good intentions. Okay. Now, the next time we're going to have a virtual meeting for our QAPI. And that meeting, we're going to do, we've got a guest speaker, and it's our Q-Source corporate pharmacist consultant. What he's going to talk about is a few things. One, he's going to talk about GDR reduction, and also we have pharmacy consultants. Now, sometimes in facilities, we view a pharmacy consultant that comes through and looks at our meds and leaves big long reports that we have to do something with. That is really not the benefit of that. The benefit is to make sure that we're not doing polypharmacy, that we're not giving extra medications that we don't need. Making sure that we're not doing antibiotic stewardship in an incorrect way. How do we best utilize that pharmacist and get the best out of those reports is exactly what he's going to talk about. That's also going to be a bridge to our next collaborative after that. So to be in the same format, except we're going to discuss opioids and psychotropic meds. We all know that that's a really hot topic now, and that we could go from a 5-star to a 1-star and almost maybe immediate jeopardy with some of our non-supported diagnoses. So we're going to learn about those meds. We're going to learn how to properly get diagnosis for them, how we are going to properly give those medications if needed, or maybe they don't need them at all. Maybe it's how we approach staff, or staff is approaching the residents, or how we're handling situations. So we're going to do education about that too. So it's a win-win. Come back and be with us.
When is that one? I'm sorry.
This next one will be virtual, and it'll be next month. We're starting to start sending out invites. You will get them. And then we're just going to keep rolling with it. Okay. In the meantime, you have all of our numbers on this next slide there. This is all of our numbers. I'm dancing now because I'm tired. But so all of our contact numbers here, and you, everybody in this room, I've met you at some capacity. The girls are meeting you. You call us. We will get there because now I can triage and get things to you. And I can do virtual, and we can do phone calls. and we are here for you. So whatever your needs are, you tell us, we adapt, okay? Any questions or concerns?
Will you please fill out your evaluations? We need the feedback. Yep, because we look at those for every meeting. And then that way we tweak as we go, because this is a road show. But this is,
circus.
I didn't say that. I just said road show.
Oh, you got them. Oh, perhaps.